Welcome back to Broken Electronics. I'm Lee, and it's wonderful to spend some time here with you today. Now, what we're going to do today is to finish up the series I have done of benchmarks and comparisons of Power Macs, ranging from the G3 Blue and White on up to the end of Apple's PowerPC era. Part 1 was, in fact, G3 Blue and White plus the G4 Sawtooth and G4 Gigabit Ethernet. Part 2 continued with G4s, the digital audio and the Quicksilver. Part 3 ended the G4 aspect of the series with two MDDs, both with and without FireWire 800 built in. Now today, the G5s. Now I've got three examples. Off in the corner there is from 2003, the two-processor 1.8 gigahertz Power Mac G5. We'll start out with that. Now, tucked in behind the chair there on the side, that is a late 2005 single-processor dual-core 2.3 gigahertz model, which I consider, and I think there's a good argument made for it to be the most powerful air-cooled Power Mac ever developed. And then finally, in the center there, the pinnacle of Apple's PowerPC development in PowerPC era, the Power Mac G5 Quad, 2.5 gigahertz, dual processor, total of 4 cores. They did not get more powerful in that machine. So, we should, in the process of these 4 videos, have a very good picture of what happened over the last nearly 7 years, from early 1999 to late 2005, of Apple's PowerPC development. I'm very much looking forward to this myself. If you are, please, as always, stay tuned. All right, we're looking here at the Leopard Desktop on the two-processor 1.8 gigahertz 2003 machine. I'm not sure what's up with the screen resolution. It must be a limitation of the graphics card, I guess. But it won't really affect running the benchmarks here. All right. We see our dual 1.8 gigahertz PowerPC G5, 8 gig of RAM, which is maxed out. Looking at our graphics, it's an ATI Radeon 9650 with 256 megabytes of video RAM, which is quite good, with core image hardware and Quartz Extreme supported. All that's good. The 2 hard drives, and they are hard drives, you know, I put those into this machine just so that it would continue to run. I had done other upgrades with it, which I then transferred to the succeeding G5s as we went. All right, so they are, you know, SATA 1 connections here, but they are both older hard drives. So we shall see where that leads us. Getting into applications here, but I'm not used to the giant size of these windows. We'll make it easier for you to see, at least on this one, though. All right, Geekbench. Now, this is the 32-bit version of Geekbench. There is a 64-bit, you know, the G5s are 64-bit processors, but we're going to keep it consistent. So, let's run it. Okay, so I will be monitoring the progress, and I'll let you know when we have some results. Stay tuned. And here we are. 1573 is our overall score, which does make it the new champion. The previous champion was the Quicksilver, which had scored 922 with dual 1 gigahertz G4s. System information there. Integer section score 1652, and you can see the individual tests. Floating point, 1848. See those individual tests, a lot of them. Memory, 1168. And then, yes, the stream tests, 1149 on stream. So yeah, overall, 1573. That is an impressive score. Makes this the highest rated, but of course we have two very powerful machines yet to come. All right, we will quit out of Geekbench. Let's move on to Xbench. And let's start the test. Be interested in seeing what the graphics test shows us. All right, stay tuned. And here are our Xbench scores. I will say these tests are going faster on this machine. 8422 again makes it the current Xbench champion. The previous high we had was actually the digital audio at 5109. So yeah, we've taken quite a jump here, haven't we? Just going from a G4 to a G5 is a lot. 108 in the CPU. Thread test, memory test is 9282. Quartz graphics 10234. OpenGL 10310. Disk test. Yeah, I suppose actually it's not really any better, and I suppose we shouldn't expect it to be, than what we saw with the digital audio that had that sat a PCI card with an SSD. So I suppose that makes some sense. All right. Oh yes, we certainly do want to save this. All right. Okay. And that's saved. Quit that, unmount the disk image. And finally, open mark. Let's run the benchmark. Okay. Once again, stay tuned. Well, I guess the Radeon 9600 is not kidding around. Actually 9650. 5018. I'll be darned. Previous champion was the MDD Firewire 800 at 1752. Okay. Yeah. Certainly the jump to the G5s was pretty significant, isn't it? All right, well, that's what we're going to run on this machine. I need to reconfigure so we can set up the single processor dual core 2.3 gigahertz. So we shall be back momentarily with that. Stay tuned. All right, we are back, and we are now on the late 2005. Can look about this Mac. Dual 2.3 gigahertz PowerPC G5. We have 8 gigabytes of RAM. That is maxed out. Looking at System Profiler and the graphics card. Now we have an NVIDIA GeForce 6600 with, again, 256 megabytes of video RAM. Now this is on a PCIe slot rather than the AGP on the 2003. We saw in looking at the G4s, the NVIDIA cards definitely seem to beat out the ATI cards, but we'll see if that holds up here. Serial ATA. Now, yeah, there's actually an eSATA PCI card in there, which I guess is showing up through there. But we have a Western Digital hard drive, which is the Leopard drive, and whatever the heck this is, doesn't matter. So yeah, we've got Tiger on the Macintosh HD and Leopard on, of course, Leopard HDD. That's the network drive. All right. We can quit System Profiler, and should. Yeah, much more what I'm used to in terms of resolution on this gigantic screen. All right, Geekbench, there we are. Again, we're still on the 32-bit Geekbench, but that will be consistent. Same version of Geekbench for all of our tests. Let's run it. Okay. Well, friends, we will be back to see what Geekbench tells us, so stay tuned. Well, I don't know if this is going to surprise anyone or not, but we do have a new Geekbench champion. Overall score of 2116, beating out the 2003 dual 1.8 gigahertz. All right. Now, so the individual scores: integer 2208, floating point 2471, memory 1602, and memory bandwidth or stream 1584. It's the 11,2 Power Mac. See the individual test scores for integer. And for floating point. For memory and stream. All right. Yeah, 2116. Okay, so we can close out of Geekbench. Let's open up Xbench. And we'll run it. Okay, folks. Well, we're on our way home. This goes pretty quickly, but we will bring you back when we have results. Please stay tuned. Well, I'm sure you won't be surprised to discover we have a new Xbench champion, 143. Now, I don't have the zoom set up. CPU test 133.34. Thread test, memory test 139.58. Quartz graphics 144.02. OpenGL 97.76. Now, yeah, the disk test is actually down some, which may have to do with the hard drives that I've got stuck into this machine. Yeah, I mean, it would make sense to be running SSDs, but SSDs are touchy, and to make sure you've got SSDs that are actually going to run on the Power Mac G5 gets kind of expensive. So, you know, I think we're going to stay with the, particularly since these first two G5s, I don't boot up that much, so we can survive that. All right. Yes, we want to save it. Okay. I realize I've saved all of these onto the local drives of the machines, if I want to get those reports out, I'm going to have to, why did I do that? I'm going to have to boot up every one of the machines and get the reports, which I will do at some point. All right, now finally, we run OpenMark. There it is. Now I'm really curious to see how this is going to compare with the ATI card that was in the 1.8. All right. Well, folks, stay tuned for the result. Well, who would have thought that 518, absolutely identical to the ATI Radeon in the 2003 1.8 gigahertz, same exact score, which is good. I mean, they're both good graphics cards for the era, certainly. They both perform comparably. So yeah, the big differences we're seeing between this machine and 1.8, it's all processor related. 2.3 gigahertz over 1.8 gigahertz, a dual core and 2 discrete processors, with a little bit of a hit on the disk speed. Yeah, it makes me want to go ahead and get SSDs for them, but it's not really worth it. Well, all right, so what we're going to have to do now is unhook this machine and hook up the quad. And that should be very interesting to see. I've been enjoying this. I hope you have as well. So please stay tuned. Okay, folks, we've finally made it here in the G5 Quad. Now, this is not the maximum resolution for the display. I think it makes a good compromise between screen real estate and actually being able to see something. I know back on the 2.3 gigahertz, it must have been very hard to see. Anyway, 4 by 2.5 gigahertz PowerPC G5 and 16 gigabytes of RAM. This is the only PowerPC machine that would enable as much RAM as that. And in looking at graphics and displays, here we've got an NVIDIA Quadro FX 4500, which has half a gig of video RAM. Very, very powerful card. So we should see OpenMark reflect that. Serial ATA, we do have SSDs here. We've got, in fact, 2 SSDs in place. Actually, there are 3, because I've got one connected via an internal FireWire 800 that I added by a PCIe card. So yeah, the Tiger installation is actually on that FireWire 800 card, leaving the faster SATA-connected SSDs more available. As far as Tiger, yeah, I never boot it into Tiger. I do it just so that Classic can be available, but it's not really all that important. What is important to us right now are these benchmarks. All right, this should be interesting. All right, so we got Geekbench running, folks. And once again, I'll be right back with the results. Stay tuned. And here we have those results. Take a look at that. I'm sure this doesn't surprise anyone out there, but we do have the champion of the Power PCs in terms of Geekbench. $34.99, just about $3,500 total score. The integer performance, 3903, floating point, 4499, memory, 1808, stream, 1979. Okay, we've seen our system information already. If you want to look at the individual scores for integer, for floating point, for memory, and for stream. But the one, of course, everybody's going to remember, that $34.99. And let's have a go at Xbench. Xbench is handy because you can save the report. And I am always particularly interested in looking at the disk speeds in that. All right, well, I'll let this run. Please stay tuned. Well, here we are again, and once again, no huge surprise. 164.13. That is close to 64 points over the 2.3 gigahertz. And you can see everything else: CPU test, thread test, memory test, Quartz graphics test, the OpenGL test. I mean, we're up along the board here. This really blows my mind. The disk test, 292.01. That's incredible. Now, and that's primarily the distinction between using new, admittedly SATA 2 SSDs on the SATA 1 bus as opposed to older hard drives. But that's a serious wow there. Okay. I'll tell you, I have learned. I'm going to save all of this. All right. I love this machine. I absolutely love this machine. Okay. Eject the disk image. And then finally, yeah, OpenMark's going to be interesting too. It ought to be kind of a different world. Oh, look at that ball spin. That tells you something right there. All right, folks, well, stay tuned. We'll be back with this result and maybe a little wrap-up. Stay tuned. All right, this is almost beyond belief, although I certainly do believe it. 16,866. The dual 2.3 gigahertz was 5,018. As was the dual 1.8. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, this NVIDIA Quadro FX 4500 is a heck of a graphics card. Well, I've learned a great deal from the process of doing this. Because we've covered basically 7 years, not quite 7 years, of Apple's PowerPC history, from the G3 blue and white up to this Quad G5. And it's kind of answered one of the questions, in looking back at Apple history. They were releasing new versions of Power Macs at an absolutely dizzying pace. You could hardly keep up with it. 2 blue and whites within 1 year, 3 G4s a year. It just absolutely amazing. Why were they doing it that quickly? Well, a lot of it was simply the processor technology. I mean, let me refer to notes here. The blue and white Geekbench was 201. Less than 7 years later, the G5 Quad, 3,499. X-Bench, 12.49, as opposed to 164.13. And OpenMark, which is really a graphics card test, 115 to 16,866. And this continued. In the G5s, you go from 2003 to 2005. The Geekbench score more than doubled. The X-Bench score almost doubled. And then in terms of graphics card technology, it's absolutely no comparison. Yet the G5s went out. These are powerful machines to this day. If the software really kept up with them, I think a lot of people would still be using them. A lot more people. I mean, I use it all the time. It's been a fascinating journey on these videos, and it's been an amazing couple of days. Of course, I release the videos twice a week, but I did, all 4 of the individual videos in this series within the last couple of days. I have learned a great deal, and I've learned I love these machines, and it's been a fascinating time dealing with it. And I've got some interesting ideas coming up as to where I am going to go. I don't think there's much more I can do taking this machine forward. But a lot of the ones that we touched on, there's going to be some work done on those. So I hope you're going to be interested in staying tuned for that. Be good to other people. We all need that in our lives, and people to just treat us well. Be good to yourselves, because it's got to start from there. You can't treat somebody else well if you don't treat yourself well. We can make this world a better place. Until it is a better place, please take very, very good and careful care in these difficult times. We are going to be back. A lot more videos, upgrade videos, various things coming up. And then there's the Banjo channel too, isn't there? Well, until we come back with more of those, this has been Broken Electronics.